Woo-wee! Ladies and gentlemen, we are 100% live, and they're like, Vinn, Dogg, what are you doing on at 6:30 at night on a Thursday? Usually we do live at 5 on Mondays, and coming up next Monday, buckle your seatbelts. I have a very special guest, and I will tell you this much. He is a Christian. He's a Hallmark actor. He's played a detective in murder mysteries, and he's also appeared in shows like Castle and Wonder Woman 1984. That's all I'm going to tell you, and you'll have to figure out the rest of that. So Monday, live at 5 right here on YouTube and Twitter. And this broadcast is not only going to broadcast on YouTube and Twitter, it's also going to broadcast in the second half of my podcast, The Kennel. You can find that on podbean.com, which is distributed all over the world on Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple, Google, and Samsung Podcasts, Pandora, TuneIn, and wherever you shall download podcasts around this great universe. But today, I am bringing you here because we have a very special friend in the house, and she is running for, District 5 of Ontario Montclair School District. Yes, she's going to be on the board of trustees. We got to make sure she gets in there on November 8th. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to this fireside chat with myself, Vinn, Dogg, Miss Adrianne Fernandez.
What's up, Vinn, Dogg?
Just
for everybody, I know this is our first time talking, but it's Adrianne for those voters out there. It's Adrianne Fernandez for Area 5, Ontario Montclair School District. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, and I should have gotten that correct the first time. What am I doing?
No, you're okay. It's so common. It happens more than you know.
Yeah, but I should have known better. So, I think I was just a little hot on the mic right now. That's all. That's happening.
Yeah, no worries. You're fine.
So we are here, and I hope everybody else is here. And please love and subscribe to this channel and share this everywhere. If you have friends and family that are in Area 5 of Ontario Montclair School District, please share this with them because they need to hear the real deal Holyfield about what's about to go down and what is going down in California, as I like to call it Commifornia, because there's just a bunch of communists, Stalinist people running California right now. So let everybody know a little bit about yourself. See, I know about you, but they need to know.
I know. So, well, I am first and foremost a Christian, God-fearing mother. I have a daughter. She is 8 years old. She's in the 3rd grade, and she's in the public school system. I am a public servant. I've been in local government for 13 years. I've worked as a board secretary supporting elected officials. So I have a lot of knowledge in that manner. I'm a school site council member at my daughter's school. So I've been active and involved as a parent in our schools. And I'm also a mentor and coach of our Ontario Fast Pitch for our girls softball here locally. This year is the first year I didn't get to coach, and that was only because campaign life, work life, mom life didn't really allow me to take on coaching at this moment. But once campaigning's over, I'll be right back at it.
Wow.
Yeah.
I asked and you just let out. That's good. That's awesome.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
okay, now you're running for this position. Now, what does the job title entail?
So, board of directors for the school district, or board of trustees, if you will, they basically are very crucial to our children, our parents, our families of the community, our educational staff. So they make really important decisions based that are financially based, curriculum based, safety based. Everything that goes into our school system, the board of directors is responsible for. So to have the right people there is very important.
Oh, absolutely. And I know that there were some reasons why you got into this fight, and there are a ton of them, of course.
Yes, of course.
On one of them that I wanted to touch on is the curriculum that goes through a lot of the schools, and they try to give this certain curriculum a different title. And you know where I'm about to go with this, right?
Yes, I already know where this is going.
I am about to hit the CRT RAM because I know there's a lot of people that don't even know that CRT is being taught still, but they're just giving it different titles.
That's correct. And for a lot of people, this is such a common question. And you know what's great is I love to talk about it because so many people don't love to talk about it. And I like to say that current board members, I don't think they're really truly informed on what exactly that looks like. I think that they don't do their homework. They kind of just go with the flow as far as the direction of the state so they can keep receiving funding. But
Mm-hmm.
CRT is critical race theory, also wrapped in a bow in so many different names, so many different programs. For our school district, they kind of blended into social emotional learning. And there is a system called Panorama. It's a software that can be utilized in different ways to implement CRT. And they start that with surveys, and then based on surveys, they will develop a curriculum that will apply to our students. And I have to say, our district has done a decent job at keeping that out to an extent. Because there is some programs within our district, there's some organizations, even like some parent groups that were developed, and they do stand for the Latino people. However, they push for change based on that. And that's part of the problem with CRT. So what people don't realize is instead of gearing our children towards the understanding of them basing their abilities on their skin color, that we should be across the board teaching them all the same, that they're all equivalent, and that they can all achieve the same successes, the same opportunities. They can, as long as they work hard, we should be building a culture of empowerment rather than teaching them because they're black, brown, white, or anything other than, whatever, based on their race, that they are less than, or that they are oppressed, or that they don't have the same opportunity. And yes, it is an understanding where obviously children don't all come from the same walks of life. And there has to be an understanding from the district and from the educators to understand what each child is coming from. But it's then our job to create a space where they can equally learn, and we can give them the right resources to get them to school, to make sure that they have the same opportunities, instead of teaching them that those are adversities that they can't overcome.
Yeah, isn't that something? Isn't that something? And the thing that they're using nowadays is that they want everybody to be victims. All right. They're having everybody to talk about white privilege.
Right.
It's really sad because, to be honest with you, if you look within the cultures of minorities, most minorities are conservative. But
That's true.
unfortunately, they get tug-told by the left to get subjugated to the theory that yes, we are for you, et cetera, and so forth, which is not necessarily true, because if you go back in history, the left was never, ever, ever for anyone but their own personal gain. And that's
You
been
know, I have to say, I'm going to comment on this, and I might just let the cat out of the bag, but there are in this city, all of a sudden, ever since I filed, it became very small, right? I always thought Ontario was such a large city, Montclair was such a large city,
yeah.
which it is. But when you start in this political game, it's really scary to realize all the decisions that are made based on people who know each other rather than the true, genuine need to serve the community or our children in the school board and even at the city level. And
Mhm.
I have come to know that even in our city level, they don't really pay attention to, left or right agendas. And it's sad, but even some of our own that think they are conservative, they pass these different curriculums, or they pass different programs in our library system, in the public libraries, for our children. And they have, like you said, like there is an agenda that gets pushed, and sometimes if it's not caught, it can be detrimental. And even like in our city library, like there's some people there that believe that there should be certain books at a very young, between like 5 and 7 year old age. There's some pornographic books that were found in our local library that were brought to our school district with concerned
Right.
parents. And those are things that really make a difference. I mean, it's not acceptable. I mean, if they also held a day where there was, adults that were able to go and express literacy freedom or literary freedom, and that's fine if you're an adult. But for children, it's something else, But there, it's surprising. It's a blended mix over here in our city where people just aren't paying attention in this political game. It becomes more of who's supporting who, and I think our kids have gotten lost in that.
Oh, absolutely, 100%. And the reason why I bring this up, and some of those people that are in office that do call themselves conservatives and they're voting for these lefty loony things, let me just tell you, you are not a conservative, you're kinos. Conservatives in name only, kinos. Let
Yeah.
me just say it how it is. All right?
Yeah. So for our districts, I mean, for the school board race, we run a nonpartisan race. And
Mm.
I have to say, you're very right when the Democratic Party goes out and they insult the Latino people. So Ontario is made up of, I don't want to say unfortunately, because it's actually a good thing, but there is a whole lot of Hispanic people in Ontario, in the city of Ontario, and me being one of them. But the thing is that my parents didn't teach me to speak Spanish, and I am Mexican. I was born in Glendale, raised in the city of Chino, graduated from Chino High School, and I never spoke Spanish. And I have to say, I have knocked door to door in my community, and as humiliating as it can be for my own people to tell me something because I don't speak the language, I am out there genuinely trying to bring them truth because, like you said, they are more conservative than they think. And here in our city, what the other party does is they go out to these parks and they host these events, or they give out a ton of free stuff, and that's how they think that they're going to earn the vote, and they insult our own people by doing that.
Absolutely, 100%. And there was a quote from an elitist, and he is King Elitist from back in the day, JD Rockefeller. He said that he and his cronies had to make sure that everyone, not just people that are Latino, black, white, or whatever, everybody had to be in debt. They had to start something called division. They had to make sure that they did this whole propagandist thing to make sure that people didn't realize that color is actually an optical illusion. I mean, we can get into a whole lot of stuff about
I
that.
know.
I just don't want to get us knocked off. So, but I can tell you so much about this, and it's true what they're doing, and it seems like a lot of things have been infiltrated. Now, I don't know if you know this, but a part of the American history, a lot of Latinos and Black people have created the conservative Republican Party in the great state of Texas back in the 1800s. See, a lot of people don't talk about that because they want everybody to be in the dark about this, and they want everybody to think that America is such a racist country. But you notice, like when people come here from Mexico, Venezuela, Colombia, Cuba, Costa Rica, everywhere, those folks are coming here to live the American dream. They're not coming here to collect welfare off the government because they don't want the government to be their daddies, because they know how it has been in their countries, and that's why they evacuate those places to come here.
You're 100% correct. That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah. So
And then we turn around and we insult them by handing them out free stuff, encouraging Medi-Cal, encouraging benefits based on the state. Yeah, you're 100% right.
mhm,
That's why they push for, no matter what your legal status is, to be able to have benefits.
mhm. So yeah, so now they're trying to say, that, oh yeah, yeah, come on in, migrate. We're gonna give you everything. Yeah, right. they're going to give you things
And that's
to take it
taxpayer
from you.
money. And I mean, that's why we're in the situation we're in with inflation. I mean, that we can go for days on this topic because
Oh yeah.
I mean, I work with so many people that have been so educated and spent a lot of time up in Sacramento working on bills, working with legislature, and it's crazy out here in California. I mean, even as our country as a whole, but California has been a test dummy for everything.
As a matter of fact, yeah, and let me tell you something. For those people that are in different parts of the country that might check this show out at a later time, this goes not just for people in California, it goes for you around the country also. It goes for all of us. Because if California goes down the tube, so does the whole country.
A lot of people say, why don't you just move? I had a lot of friends and family move out of California already. And I said, this is my home. And if I'm going to be forced to leave, that's not how I want to go. I don't want to go. I don't want to be forced to leave because I don't agree with what's happening. I want to be able to stay and fight and change things for not just my own child, but all of our children. And I say our children because they are right now the most vulnerable of
Mm-hmm.
all of us.
That's why
The government can say, "Oh, everybody's our constituent," but the biggest, the largest group of constituents are children without a voice, and that's exactly why I'm doing what I'm doing. A lot of people are asking me about the board and, oh, what would you change? I can't go back and change a lot of things that they've already done, but I can start working on correcting things or making things that are already working, make them a little bit better. And I can also, I was already working at a state level along with some other freedom fighters in this whole thing as to what was coming down the pike for our children. And when I went into our boardroom and I saw what was sitting there, I knew automatically that, and even just based on the way they handled the pandemic, that when stuff comes down and money's dangled like a carrot, are we going to have strong leaders, true parent advocates that are going to let parents have a choice in what their curriculum looks like, what medical freedoms their children will have? Are they going to have a say? Or is our
Mhm.
board just literally going to lay down, take money, and sign where needed at our children's expense
Mhm.
and push our parents right out the door? And
Yeah.
that's genuinely a concern. And so, yeah, that's just a portion of why I'm doing what I'm doing. But it was really concerning to me. And when I just saw these bills, passing with flying colors at a state level, all that's going to do is come right down. It's not going to go to our county. It's not going to go to our cities because they don't have jurisdiction over school board. It's going to go right to those school board members. And if you have uneducated members or, like I said, weak leaders, there's nothing protecting our children in the public school system.
Yep. As a matter of fact, that's true. I remember a quote, and I know I shouldn't mention this movie from back in the day.
Oh no. I'm afraid.
From this movie, but it's so true. And you know what? And I think this should be played for every leader who's bending that knee and like arching their back just to get a dollar. And I remember this. There was a movie. It was called American Me, and I remember JD telling Santana, "You're showing weakness, Cardinal. You're showing weakness." And that's what these people are doing right now, big time. I haven't seen a level of weakness, and I'm calling out the men too because they are showing super weakness. It's like they ate some chickens and it was shot up with something, and then they just folded like end tables at a broke picnic.
Yeah, right now I actually know a couple dad groups, which I love. They are dads fighting for freedom and for their children because they are parents too.
Mm-hmm.
And, moms have been in the school districts voicing their opinions because that's what this did. The pandemic woke up the mama bear. And moms can go in there, but when you have moms and dads in there, it makes a statement. And I mean, for our district, I don't think that they even addressed any concerns, and that in itself was like red flags galore. But um I know a lot of different parents that have gotten involved across our state, and it's beautiful what's happening and the amount of people standing up for our kids. But I have to tell you, it's more people talking about it and they're not taking action. They're not doing anything about it. So this was my way of doing that because I spent a long time on social media talking about different things and I'm putting my action behind my words. So this is my way of trying to make a difference.
Yeah, that's why I'm supporting people like you, because when I did radio locally in Riverside County, there is one thing that a lot of my friends on the staff knew, that when you mess with the kids, look out because here I come.
That's right. That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
And I'm sorry, but it's crazy because half of these school boards are made up of people that do not have children in the district. So
Mhm.
when they make decisions, there's no impact to them at all. So the most genuine way to find out who's real about why they're there, their true agenda, put a parent on the board. And I'm pretty sure they're not going to make decisions that impact their children negatively.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's very, very true. Jesus said these words, you might as well have been thrown into the ocean and have a millstone tied around your neck if you should corrupt these little ones in such a
That's
way.
right. That's
Yeah.
right.
And so,
You're absolutely right.
yeah. And so these people, I swear they need to get out. If they can't hold the candle and protect the freedom for the children and their parents, move to the side and let some real people jump into the fight and take care of
But
business.
it's not that easy, right? So,
Yeah,
of course, there's always something more. And it's crazy because when I first wanted to do this, it was as simple as that. Like, we'll just let the parents do it. Like, let some people that have a little bit of background, some experience get in there. But you would be so surprised as to the level of effort that goes into keeping people like myself out. And that's for so many reasons. Like, we have the highest paid superintendent in the entire state of California. He
I
did
know.
$700,000 last year.
I know. I
And
saw his taxes.
the last thing that somebody like that, or even any of the board members, want is someone like me. Why? Because it brings transparency. It breaks the status quo.
Mm.
And they've been working on that status quo for a very long time.
Yeah, and for you to come in, they consider you a disruptor, which is good. We need disruptors.
Yeah,
I'm a disruptor. That you know what? I'm gonna tell you, this is why I believe that certain things happen to me in the industry that I worked in, is because I was the type of person, I was like no nonsense. I didn't, follow everybody else's agenda. I followed the agenda I was supposed to
your own,
follow.
right?
Yeah, I follow God's agenda, and if they didn't like it, they can stuff themselves inside of an elephant cast. And that's just the way I felt about it. And so now that I am actually doing what I can do and what I love to do, is to talk to people and to have great folks like yourselves have this fireside chat with me, is because people need to really know what's popping off, and nobody is doing anything. And like you said, a lot of folks are like, oh yeah, oh yeah, that's it's just so terrible that that's happening, but they're not doing anything about it. They're just sitting on their hands.
That's
What?
right. I know. And I meet so many people like that, especially, being part of this whole freedom fighting movement for what, almost 2 years now we've been doing this. And
Mhm.
originally I was like, I think I mentioned before we started the podcast, was that I even supported state candidates through the primaries. And then I was like, kind of helping them, walking for them, canvassing for them, trying to get their name out there as much as I could. And now I'm on the other side of it because I got to that point of I have to do something. And I'm not so much worried about myself. I am already morally set in my ways. And I'm worried about our children that still are very vulnerable to change that they can be taught. They're like little sponges, and whatever we want to teach them and mold them into be, they will be.
Mm.
And they need a voice, and so do their parents, because right now our school boards do not listen to our parents. And I just made a video this morning. I don't know if you saw it. It was on my Instagram, but I made a video because I wanted to call out all of our career politicians, because it's so crazy that when people like myself, new candidates, come to take seats, these people that have been in office for 4+ years, some people have been in office for a very long time
Yeah, too
and
long.
have made little to no change. But you light a fire under their butt when somebody like myself comes along and all of a sudden they have to start campaigning and they have to start, creating an image as to how great they are and the work that they're doing. And it's only for election season because once it's passed, they get complacent all over again. And that's part of the problem. And if they weren't like that in the first place, I probably wouldn't be sitting here talking to you about why I need to run. Because that's the
Exactly.
reality of it.
Yeah, I think that's what 45 said to the current installed guy too.
Right?
If you did your job, I wouldn't have to run.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's right. I think there's so many of us that think the same way. Like, just do your job and we don't have to do this. But I think we're at a pivotal time where, like, in our state, where it's kind of back, like, taking it back to like the colonial days where like people used to come out of their community, leave their job for a few months, go serve, and then come back, And I
mhm.
think that's where we're at. That's why they say the grassroots movement is here and it's a pivotal time. That's why it's so important for the voters, even at a local level, to pay attention to who they're voting for. And not voting is going to get bad people into seats. So it is important.
Yeah, a lot of people say, "Oh man, I don't want to vote. It's not going to make a difference." Are you
Is
kidding
going to
me?
get bad people into seats. So it is important.
Yeah, it's very. Yeah, a lot of people say, "Oh man, I don't want to vote." Oh, sorry about that. That was my.
Yeah, I was like, oh, that was weird. I hear myself talking.
That was a little bit of backfire moment there. Man. That's funny. Oh my
It just
goodness.
needed to be repeated. That's why.
Yeah, pretty much. But no, have you ever noticed that the people that do the most talking are the ones that don't even vote?
Yeah, that's correct. I've met a lot of people in my community, and sometimes I get a lot of questions, and it's somebody who is not registered to vote. But I will tell you, I still explain to them what I'm about. I still tell them because you never know who they know. And not only that, every person in my community matters to me. And that's why I've taken the time to walk door to door, no matter if it's 110 degrees outside or raining. I have gone on every ounce of free time that I have to go walk and meet people so they have a face to a name and they know who they're voting for. Because I can guarantee you that my opponent is not doing that. There's no effort. They don't care enough to do that.
Right. Exactly. And the problem with politicians, and I was thinking about this today as I was prepping for the show. I said, the biggest problem is that a lot of politicians, they go out there and they get the people's vote and then they get into their seats and they get comfortable and they don't go back and talk to these people.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. Until it's election season and they're up for re-election. That's how it works. And those people need to go. It's time for a different day and age. There's a lot of people out here hungry to make a change. And I can tell you I'm willing to do that work. I've done so much groundwork even before being there. And I I can't tell you I've been involved in policy writing, procedure writing for a living for my career. I publish board agendas. I'm so familiar with the way everything works. And I fully intend to bring that experience to the board to be able to go thoroughly through contracts, to be able to read through policies, and if the change is needed, to make those changes. If it's working too, I don't want to fix something that's not broken, because there is some things in our school district that are beneficial for our kids. And
Hmm.
and that's one thing too that you said, about disruption. A lot of people are afraid, right? Like, oh, well, she's going to come in here and everything's going to be negative or whatever. No, absolutely not. I think that what people are nervous about is that, but that's not what I intend to do. I intend to make a change, but I want to work with the board members that are there. I want to be able to have an actual checks and balances and the board work and function like it's supposed to function.
Right. I mean, so basically, how is it um, that a lot of people that are on these boards are not getting it? Do they not get it, or they just don't want to get it, and they just want to sit there and not do anything and not cause
I,
any problems?
to be honest with you, at our board meetings, I can only speak for Ontario Montclair. I spent a lot of time just observing, And I can tell you, there was never any form of dialogue. There was never any healthy discussion back and forth. There was never any questions asked from the board members as to what was being presented to them, what they were voting on. It was always just cut and dry, unanimous aye. And that made me think that there was a lot of side conversations with our board that nobody knew about. And so that in itself was like so concerning. And then it made me really think, like, is this board being directed with the superintendent directing the board, or are the board members really holding the superintendent accountable to do his job and for his staff to do their job? And are they supporting the staff to a level that they need in order to get things done? And it was really confusing. And I mean, with the way that we handled COVID, it was like even worse. I think that we signed up for ESSER funds, not even realizing, and for, if you don't know, ESSER funds was the COVID-19 relief funds. I think that we signed up for those funds at our children's expense, not realizing that we were going to have to mask them for however long, and we were going to have to follow all these health guidelines. And that's why you pissed off a lot of people, and a lot of parents were upset about that because nothing was done on our behalf.
Okay, so to touch on all of this, all right, there was a guy who was a president when we were probably kids, and he said this. Listen,
I think you all know that I've always felt the 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
You're killing me. It's so true, because the government is not here to tell us what to do. Our school board is not here to tell us what to do with our children. It's the exact opposite. And you would be blown away. I mean, we sat in some meetings where they were pretty heated. And when you would call out a board member, it got a little aggressive. And I think that they would start turning off the mic after like 20 seconds. They did not want people there. They would call the police. I mean, every meeting we went to, there was police presence. And that became a normal thing. I mean, I'm sure you heard over the news, there was people calling parents like terrorists and all kinds of crazy madness. I mean, not in our district, but that was happening all over the place. And I mean, people just have things backwards right now. And the only way to change that is to put honest, accountable, real parent advocates, real staff, educator advocates in seats.
yeah, and you know, sometimes it's not just up to you to do something. It's also up to parents to find the time to educate themselves on all of this, because there's a lot at stake. I mean, there's people that are in your school district that you might not know, but they have been plots by certain people, and I can't mention their names because I don't want to get us demonetized. But you know, it's insane, and you know, and all I could say this: we just give him the nickname in the industry, Spooky. That's what we'll call him, Spooky. And he puts millions of dollars into certain cities,
Yes.
into their districts. And
Yes.
you know who I'm talking about.
Yes.
This guy cares nothing. This guy really wants to destroy America. That's his agenda. He's even said it.
Yeah. And
So,
why not use our children to do that, right?
yeah.
I mean,
And
if you attack the children all at once at a school age level, then you have a very, when they grow up, they're not self thinkers. They're not independent thinkers. They're not independent, thriving adults. They're dependent adults. And then therefore you have control. And that is, oh my gosh. I actually work with an organization that is trying to, well, not trying. We've already established a voter guide that has every single candidate from our governor down in the state of California, with any candidate that is grassroots, traditional values, Christian values, moral values. I mean, some of them aren't even practicing Christians, like where, they're, like, I guess people like thought of me like, oh my gosh, we don't need God in our schools. And I'm like, well, you need God, but you don't need to be 100% an active Christian to know right from wrong when it comes to your kids. And that's what I was telling people the other day. Like, well, let me not get sidetracked, but we put together a voter guide that has some very genuine people that have gone through amazing triumphs and overcoming some real issues. I mean, I've met some state candidates that have been fired from law enforcement after years and years and years of servicing our community. And they were fired for not getting the jab,
Yeah.
I've met moms that have quit their profession because, they didn't want to get it, or they were going to be forced to get it and they didn't want to, and didn't know how they were going to provide for their kids. And these people are now running for our state. So the reasons behind them and the drive behind them is very real.
Mm-hmm. So, you talked about, God in the schools. I mean, what is your take on that? What is like, is that something you're for? Because I mean, I'm 100% for that. I'm 100% for God.
Yes, I am.
Because
yes, I am.
if you think about the history of the system of learning before the so-called educators, hijacked the system, that's what made everything go, is when you put God in the classroom. Because once God got taken out of the classroom, all these heinous things started to happen and unfold. And I asked my parents, I'm like, what were you guys thinking when you were letting that happen? And they're like, well, it started with our parents back in the 60s. I'm like, oh, that explains everything, right? 1963. I went and looked it up. I'm like, oh, so that's when they decided to take God out of the classroom. That's just great. And they were planning decades before that. See,
that's right. That's right. This has been a plan for a long time. We've been in spiritual war for a long time. Mm-hmm. It's just finally hitting its peak because we have been silent and blind for so long and not paying attention that now we are in an uphill battle to try to correct things that are already so far gone. But as far as our schools having God in the classroom, I can't tell you. I mean, I've been to some schools where they weren't saying the Pledge of Allegiance in the morning. And because, it refers to one nation under God.
Indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Yes. And that is not happening in our district. They do say the Pledge of Allegiance respectfully. I've been in some meetings where they open with a prayer, and I believe that that's doing the right thing. But with that said, then, we morally need to be doing the right thing. And what a lot of people don't know is our Constitution was based on the divine monarchy of Christ. And we were promised freedom because of Christ. And if we don't involve God and you remove God,
and you talking about this thing here?
Yeah, exactly. Oh my God, so many people wouldn't even know what that is, but
yeah, like, what's the Constitution? Because they don't even teach it anymore, look at that.
Yes, and that's another thing. We need to teach our children about the history of our country, the goods and the bads, because that's why this country is what it is.
Yes, and there was good and bad in every country, in every nation that was created.
Correct. That's correct.
Good and bad. But check this out. So in this Constitution, which was written on the principles of God, and George Washington even has a letter written about that. And kids don't even know that.
No,
parents don't even know that.
That's why I say, it's so important for us to teach our kids. And actually, I found a really cool website, which I will probably share with all my parents that are in my parent coalition group. But it actually is a book based on our founding fathers and how our nation became what it is. And you know what? I want to tell you something really cool. I'm going to share a personal story that I don't really talk about my personal life too much, but I'm going to share a personal story. My daughter, the other day, she loves to read. She's been reading since she was in kindergarten. I'm so proud of her. She struggles a little in math, but she loves to read. And I thought it was the coolest thing. The other day, she said, Mom, we took a trip to the library today. And normally she comes home with like Goosebumps or like these really like weird books about other little kids and Judy B. Jones. I don't know if you know what that is, but there's like these chapter books that she loves to read.
Yeah.
And some of them are just funny. And she came back the other day with a book about the American flag.
Nice.
And I thought it was the coolest thing because she, on her own, was like, Mom, I found this and I brought it home so we could read it together. And she said, she was reading a chapter a day about the flag. And at the end of the book, she was like educating me on some things I didn't even really know about our flag. And she put 2 and 2 together about 4th of July. And it was just so awesome to see an 8-year-old do that on her own. And I can't encourage parents enough to do the same things, like get your children involved as to where and have them be proud of the country that they live in, because we have people trying to do the exact opposite right now.
Well, let me tell you something. The reason why they're doing this, and this is at a global level, they're doing it everywhere, but they know that if they start with the USA first, then they can destroy the rest of the world. That's the whole agenda. If America goes down in a blaze of no glory, then they know that their hand is free. And they need
I'll tell you, there's a lot of us out here that will do our best to fight so we don't see that day. But I mean, that's just a little ounce of what fuels your fire, right? But to protect your children, to stand for your children, to be able for your children to stand on their own takes strong parents, strong advocates. And sometimes for the parents that aren't involved, that don't know, that's why there's people like myself to help you out. Like, that's what we're trying to do. And that's why it's just knowing the right people, voting for the right people, and there can be change made.
Right. And just so a lot of people know, I always hear this stuff from there. Oh, you guys are talking about your American Jesus. No, we're talking about Jesus Christ. We're not talking about an American Jesus. We're talking about
the God that serves all. Right?
Okay, so here's something that a lot of people don't know, and I know they don't know because sometimes you just have to like throw a little education bomb over their heads and hit them with it. So because they always say, oh, the founding forefathers were nothing but just a bunch of racist old white men. Well, guess what? Thomas Jefferson was 33 years old.
Yeah. Really young, right?
Yeah. And it's sad that people don't know that, but it's like, wait a minute, man, before you say something, oh, well, I heard it on a Communist Narrative Network and they said it was true. And even the knuckleheads at Fox News, sometimes I just don't get them. But anyway, I just like to tell it like it is. And before I say something, I'm gonna go and do my research. That's just number one. And the Bill of Rights in the Constitution, I was around your daughter's age when I learned how to read this. My stepdad sat down with me and we read the Bill of Rights together.
That's right. Why not?
I want you to know how great this country is and how flawed it is at the same time, but it is not terrible. If it was so terrible, why are people trying to get in here and people are dying to get in here?
That's right. That's right. And that's what I think we need to remind people of. Like, I ran into a parent not too long ago that made a comment about the organization that I was working with. And they're like, oh, you're part of that group that had anti-mask rallies. You're an anti-masker.
Oh, yeah.
And I said, hold on. Let's back up there, right? I said, no, I'm not an anti-masker. I'm an anti-mandate. I stand for the anti-mandate, okay? And the reason why I stand for that is because my true wholehearted belief is the second you lose one of your rights, you lose all of your rights. So if you don't stand for something, you will fall for everything.
That's right.
And I was not going to have that. And you are not going to tell me what I medically had to do to myself or to my child. You're not going to tell me where I can and can't shop. You are not going to tell me how to spend my own hard-working money. And I mean, even that in itself, we're already a puppet enough to the working class everyday routine. We are already a slave to that. So to me, I was not going to stand for that. And so when this mom said, "Oh, you're an anti-masker," no, I just don't stand for mandates, period.
Just tell her, you know what, lady? You know what you told her? I'm anti-oligarch. That's what I'm anti.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know what to tell a lady as far as like to not be disrespectful, but I told her I stand for you as a parent to have the choice to be able to put a mask on your child. I stand for you to be able to have the choice to vaccinate your child. But I also stand for the parent that does not want to do that, to have the right to be able to make the decision for your own child.
Yeah, check this out. So, like you said right there, it's all about your choice, all right? But at the end of the day, these people, let me tell you something. And my great pastor said this. He said, social distancing equals social conditioning. So basically, this all was a test, and I can't mention certain words because you know how YouTube. They did this to set the table, saying, "Oh man, we can get these people to be obedient to us." And
I think they forgot they were dealing with Americans because. Yeah, that lasted for so long when nobody knew what the heck was going on. But I don't see that happening again. This year, like, people woke up. I mean, look, I don't know if you knew what happened in LA, but they tried to put the mask mandate back into effect not too long ago. And you had business owners in there, you had parents and citizens in there, and they said absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Yeah, Los Angeles is crazy right now. I mean, they need to get that mayor out of there. And their district attorney is a corrupt jerk.
And so is the school board system. And that's what I'm saying. Like, it starts at every level. So it's so important. And San Bernardino County has done a great job with trying to do the best they could with our county during those circumstances and pushing back with the state. They did do a good job. And actually, our school board was blaming our county during the mask mandate, saying, "Oh, well, the county is enforcing it." And the county wrote a letter like, "We are not enforcing it. This is the school board." And the school board was doing that because they had already received funding that required them to do that.
Oh yeah, they became a ward of the state on that. So here's where I'm at with this. Okay, let's get back to the whole election thing on November 8th. Okay,
it's actually November 8th.
Yeah, it's get your vote in, but you know what's walk your vote in. If your polls are open, walk it in. Okay, so check this out. Not only is it important to vote for the right people for the school boards, it is also important to vote for people that are going to be representing your area for assembly, for Congress, for the Senate. And the number one thing that matters in every county is the sheriff that you have in place. If you have a sheriff in place, excuse my language, that has the pelotas to stand up for people, that's who you vote for. Okay. You don't want none of these Mickey Mouse Doink the Clown sheriffs running your county and submitting to the government, because the sheriff is supposed to be the last line of defense for the people and by the people, because the people pay the sheriff.
Yeah, and actually, San Bernardino County has an amazing sheriff. Shannon Dykes is super supportive of me. I had an amazing conversation with him, and I've actually established some relationships with our chief of police for Ontario, and then also our chief of police for the city of Montclair. And I did that as taking a proactive approach to be able to have open lines of communication. So that way, when I'm elected, I do want to push for law enforcement at our school sites. And I want to do the most I can to make that something that's permanent, because right now we don't have that. The district barely implemented safety officers, which are unarmed, and I don't think that we need that. I think we need armed law enforcement at every school site, and that's something that I keep repeating over and over because it's so important to me, because nothing else matters if our kids aren't safe. And right now that's a big issue. So
that's 100%. Speaking of that, I have a video that nice.
yes! I love it. That was such a nice surprise. Yes.
Oh man. So yeah, people, if you're in the Ontario area, get your vote in. Make sure she gets on the board.
Yes, I'm so excited. People do not understand how bad I want this, and I'm just going to express it here because I have nowhere else to do it. But I am so excited. Like I just can't wait to get my seat and like hit the ground running, because it's 4 years of a lot of work, and these terms are 4 years, which people need to really let that sink in. Like some people are like, oh, I don't have kids in the district yet because they're 2-3 years old, but it's like these are 4-year terms. So by the time your children get to kindergarten, the decisions that these people will make are crucial to your kids. So I'm so excited to be able to, I feel in my soul that God called me to this journey to protect our children, to advocate for our babies, and I'm going to do exactly that. And I think God gave us our children, not our school board our children. And I want to be able to give parents their voice and be able to have a space for every child to succeed, learn, and be safe and have fun doing it. And I can't wait. I'm excited. Election day is like around the corner. This weekend is crunch time for us. I have a wonderful group of supporters that are going to go out and walk. And so if you see me out in the Ontario area, I will be busy all weekend doing that.
Awesome. That is awesome. So I'm going to say this right here. When you win, you have to come back on.
I totally will. We're going to have to do a follow-up.
Yeah, we have to do a follow-up. And you know what? And we also will do another update before November 8th, so that we can get get the ball running. So we need
all
to
right.
All right.
Well, thank you so much.
Yes, you're welcome.
You.
Yes, anytime. Yes. God bless you. God bless everybody. Take care of one another. Love each other. And don't forget, Monday, live at 5, my very huge special guest will be in the house, and I can't tell you who it is. All right. Take care of yourselves. See you soon.